All right, I'm not trying to. 6 o'clock, call the meeting order. Oh, wait a minute. Open meeting, Zach.
Oh, yeah.
Roll call.
Holly?
Here.
Probably sitting down there. Jamie, do you mind grabbing one of those agendas and bringing it up here? All right, Buckminster? Here. Rod?
Here.
Wisdom? Ferguson?
Here.
Ratcliffe?
Here.
Foraker?
Here.
Layden?
Yep. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. I provided a written report. I'll hit some of the key highlights in there. Our mobile app continues to grow. 5 to 10 people a day are downloading that, which is kind of good. We get analytics on that of what people are looking at, which is mainly the news component that we have in there and the report and issue tabs. Human resource side, we don't have any positions open right now. We're still looking at that service tech under the electrical side, working with Trevor on that, so I'm seeing how we can get that developed and brought back in. On the finance side of things, draft budgets are near completion. A little bit farther behind on that than I want to be, but we're pretty busy, so I've been trying to do those in the after hours. So we'll try to get budget committee meetings scheduled here in the next couple weeks. We're going to have a special meeting for the budget hearing on September 25th at 5:30 p.m. So we'll have notices going out for that. And then immediately following that would be the special meeting for the budget adoption. We get to have that submitted in before the state on the 30th. I leave on conference on the 27th, so we'll have to get that done on the 26th and have that punched into the state. On the community development side of things, Ahern Aviation and the Full City Airport Authority are collaborating right now to do hold a fly-in breakfast on Saturday, September 9th at Brenner Field. They got JCs out there, I think, doing the breakfast, and I think Partners in Education are doing some components. And they're sponsoring an FAA first responder training, which is free to all area first responders. Essentially go through some of the details of aviation specific rescues, which will be good for the area. Grant side, we have 7 projects under our OOR. We did a drive for that a while back to try to utilize some of those funds. We had $500,000 sitting in that OOR grant program. This will utilize, I think, 200-some thousand of it if those 7 projects get pushed through. Housing Board will be reviewing those, so we'll still have about 330,000 of projects that we'll probably do another drive for and try to get that out there for home rehabs. We're having some additional discussions with Blue Rivers Area on Aging. We're set up here for September 15th to discuss their operations at the Senior Center, the Meals on Wheels program, and potential collaboration with the housing agency. And we can potentially make that facility work for them at a low cost with the utility expenses and things down at Senior Center. That's tuning into their budgets and looking at some options. So see what happens there. We had some additional meetings with Richland County Sheriff's Office and County Commissioner Karras to talk through that 911 dispatching. Essentially, we're still, on the prelim side of things, but essentially their contract comes up in August with Beatrice for renewals. They had asked us to potentially look at doing full 911 dispatching internally here, where it's kind of similar to what we did prior before we dispatched it and sent it out to the sheriff's office. Now we would take those calls in and take those start to finish rather than pushing them out somewhere else. So the county's has asked us to rely on our dispatchers that are trained to do all the 911 work to do that. So we're talking discussions there. We'll have an interlocal agreement to present before the board at some point in time here in the near future, but there's a little bit of time frame there to get that done as they're still under contract. We still got some utility infrastructure planning happening on North Commercial Corridor. You guys had, or the council had put together LB 840 funds, are obligated for that. So we're getting the electrical, some three-phase pushed out there a little bit farther, built out there, and some gas improvements planned to get that stuff in the ground for early spring next year. And Edge is looking at or soliciting engineers for the full site development right now. But we're going to go ahead and move forward on that, utilize those LB 840 funds to get that done. That was already earmarked. So our crews are planning that, and that's one of those projects Trevor's taking on right now. Other than that, any questions?
Is there any, we had a little power outage last night. Did we lose OPPD power last night, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, I figured it was pretty short term.
Yep.
Chief,
I don't have anything.
under the consent agenda, move for minutes approval for August 21st, agenda approval, claims, consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All vote.
Right. 8 yeas.
Discussion and action. 2023 liquor class C license renewals.
Yeah, these are the annual renewals. Those went out for publication in the newspaper, and essentially now we just go through and do the approvals on them so we can send them to the state. No new ones, it's the same players as it's always been.
Motion to approve. Second.
Second.
All vote.
8 yeas.
Discussion and action. Second reading of ordinance 2023-102 to merge the duties and position of utility superintendent to the street superintendent into the position of public works director as recommended by the Board of Public Works.
All right, do the reading. Ordinance 2023-102, an ordinance of the city of Falls City to amend sections 1-212 and 2-214 of the Falls City Municipal Code to assign the duties of the street department and street projects to the Board of Public Works, to create the position of Director of Public Works, and to merge into such position the duties of utility superintendent and street superintendent, to repeal ordinances in conflict herewith and establish an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All vote.
So, Sean? We
Yeah.
motion on that. 8 yeas.
Discussion and action, resolution authorizing the city to abate nuisances at 710 West 21st Street, 813 Harlan Street, and 1515 Lane Street.
These properties were purchased by an out-of-town person, LLC, that has been inactive now. It's a hazard at Harlan for the folks coming out of Frosty Queen and actually going on 21st Street. They're just kind of all awful. We have to, on a regular basis, nudge him to even mow them. I think I don't know what he was thinking when he purchased them, but the properties haven't had utilities in several years, and it would be best for the community to have them gone. So the houses would be tear downs as well.
Yeah, so essentially these are all on our vacant property list, I believe,
Yes.
Already. We have budget remaining there in that original obligation of that 100,000. There's about 40,000 that's remaining for that. Estimated with these, we had a couple, like 807 East 12th sold on auction the other day, plus 1704, which we ended up purchasing that one. But like 807 ended up getting actually bought, so our lien got bought out and we just got repaid for that. So we have some of that income coming back in. But essentially adding these three on plus everything else that Blake has under contract for obligation leaves us around $11,000 in that original allocation. Estimated these would be in between 600 or 6,000 to 8,000 a piece, is what we'd be looking at. So budget's sitting there to do it. So rather than them sit there on vacant property with no action on them, I think it's time we can go ahead and move forward with them. get the demo process moving on them, and get that done.
Motion to approve.
All vote.
Eight yeas.
Resolution authorizing the signing of an annual certification of program compliance to the Nebraska Board of Public Roads Classifications and Standards 2023.
Yep, so this will be one of those components that eventually kind of move over to the Board of Public Works, but it will still come before the governing body as the overall authority. Essentially this would be for certifying last year that we complied with state classifications to maintain our highway allocation. We submit the standards. This is why we have, like Olson hired as our street superintendent is one of those pieces. We have to expend so many funds for repairing streets of those highway allocations. This to certify that for that last year, which then puts us in place for the new year.
Second.
All vote.
8 yeas.
Discussion and action. Request to approve an additional 1% allowable growth percentage to the restricted funds authority.
So we see this every year. I'll kind of re-explain it. There was 2 documents in the packet that I put in there, kind of highlighted a couple areas. Essentially, you have your restricted funds authority each year that you go through with your lid computation. You get a base limit growth of 2.5% typically is what the state provides. So your budget and that base increases by that amount every year. And then you'd have your growth on your city on top of that if it exceeded 2.5%. In this case, our city typically does not grow more than a percent a year. This was the year it actually was up 1.05%. Last year, I think it was 0.26. Big difference on that. So we don't get anything on that. But essentially, we can add that additional 1%, take that from 2.5 to 3.5. We don't enact upon it, but it allows us that authority to enact upon it if you needed it at some later date. So essentially what it does is takes your restricted funds going into this next budget from a little over 94,000 to about 132,000. And that obviously compounds years over years as you go another 3% the next year rather than 2%. So it's recommended by state auditor and everyone cities to pass that along, but they have us, so the authority's got to do that, or the board's got to do that with a 75% of a quorum. So it's not a super majority, but at least 75% of that, which here will be 6.
Motion to approve. Second.
All vote.
Eight yeas.
That's the end of the agenda.
14 minutes, 14 seconds.